Get your black ass out of my first class. Now. Heather Harrington's voice cut through the cabin like a whip crack. She stood over seat 2A, arms crossed, blonde hair pulled back so tight it stretched her face into a mask of contempt. Captain Elias Thorne looked up from his flight manual. His jaw tightened. His breathing stayed controlled. But his hands, calloused from 15 years gripping yokes through storms, gripped the armrest hard enough to blanch his knuckles. For a moment, Elias didn't see the flight attendant sneer. He saw a summer evening 23 years ago. 3 police cruisers converging on his father's Volvo. 6 guns pointed. His father, Marcus Thorne, federal prosecutor, face down on hot asphalt while 12-year-old Elias cried silently in the back seat. The suspect they'd been searching for was white, 23, 5'7". His father was black, 48, 6'2". But the dispatcher had said dark sedan. That was enough. The memory lasted 3 seconds. Then Heather's voice snapped him back. "This is my assigned seat, ma'am." His voice came out calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that cost something. The kind his father had used that night while lying on hot pavement, hands behind his back, cheek pressed against gravel. Behind Heather, Caldwell Higgins 3 tapped his Italian loafer against the carpeted aisle. His Rolex caught the overhead light as he gestured impatiently toward the seat Elias occupied. Finally, Caldwell muttered loud enough for rows 1 through 4 to hear. "Someone's handling this properly. I paid $12,000 for this seat. I shouldn't have to wait while." He paused, letting his meaning hang. "While this gets sorted out." Heather snatched Elias's boarding pass without looking at it. "Anyone can print fake tickets. This gentleman," she nodded toward Caldwell. "This gentleman belongs in first class. You need to move to coach, where people like you sit." The temperature dropped. Passengers froze mid-motion. Drinks paused halfway to lips. Phones stopped scrolling. In seat 2B, Sloane Masters, documentary filmmaker, camera always ready, quietly angled her phone. Her thumb hit Instagram Live. 3 viewers became 12. Heather leaned closer. Her breath smelled like coffee and authority. "I've worked this route for 12 years. I know exactly what you're trying to do. Fake upgrades, stolen credentials, fraudulent boarding passes. I've seen it all. Especially from people who think they can." "Ma'am." Elias's voice stayed level. He pulled out his credentials. Boarding pass, employee ID, platinum elite status card, all bearing his name, all legitimate. As he held them out, another memory flickered. His father's hands, steady despite humiliation, producing his federal prosecutor credentials that summer night. The officer barely glancing at them. "We'll verify these." 40 minutes of verification for credentials that were obviously genuine. 40 minutes of neighbors watching. 40 minutes of shame that had nothing to do with guilt. Heather waved Elias's documents away like swatting flies. "Forgeries are sophisticated now. Security briefed us last week on upgrade scams. I recognized the pattern. The dismissal was identical. 23 years apart. Different people. Same contempt." Sloane's viewer count hit 50. Comments started flooding. "This is insane. Someone record this. Call the news." The elderly woman in 3A whispered to her husband. "This isn't right." A business exec in 4C shook his head, but said nothing. Stayed silent. Like the neighbors who'd watched from their porches that summer night. Witnesses who saw injustice, but chose comfort over intervention. Marcus, young black flight attendant from Coach, appeared at the galley entrance. He'd heard Heather's voice carrying through the aircraft. His face went tight when he saw Elias. "Heather," his boarding pass clearly shows. "Marcus." Heather's voice went sharp. "Return to your section. I'm handling this." Marcus retreated, but his eyes met Elias's for half a second. A look that said, "I see you. I know. I'm sorry." Elias recognized that look. He'd worn it himself 1,000 times. The look of someone who knows what's happening but lacks power to stop it. The look he'd seen in his own reflection after watching his father humiliated. Powerless. Unable to help. That night, lying in bed, listening to his mother cry in the kitchen, Elias had made a promise. If the system wouldn't protect him, he'd become the system. The overhead speaker crackled. "Flight 447 departure in 15 minutes. Please take your seats." Heather seized the urgency like a weapon. "Sir, you're now delaying this flight. That's a federal offense. I'm calling security to remove you." She reached for her radio. The cabin erupted in whispers. Someone said, "Just let him sit down." Another voice, We're going to miss our slot because of this." Caldwell stepped forward, his entitlement radiating heat. "Look, I have a critical connection in Atlanta. I can't afford delays because some guy thinks he can." "Mr. Higgins." Heather cut him off with a smile. "Don't worry. This will be resolved in 90 seconds. She keyed her radio. "Ground control, this is Harrington on Flight 447. Needs supervisor and security to Gate B17. Uncooperative passenger. Possible fraudulent documentation. Requesting immediate removal." Sloan's live stream exploded. Viewer count jumped from 50 to 210 seconds. Then 500. Comments cascaded. "Record everything. This is discrimination. I'm never flying AA again." Elias sat perfectly still. His briefcase rested on his lap. Inside, weather reports, flight plans, crew evaluations for tonight's transatlantic crossing to London. And folded on top of everything, pressed with military precision, his captain's jacket. 4 gold stripes on each sleeve. For stripes nobody had bothered to notice. For stripes that represented 15 years of work. Air Force ROTC at 17. Flight school at 20. Commercial certification at 23. First officer at 25. Captain at 30. Chief flight instructor at 33. 15,000 flight hours. 700 transatlantic crossings. 0 incidents. He'd earned those stripes through emergencies that terrified veteran pilots. Through engine failures at 39,000 feet. Through medical crises where passengers' lives depended on his ability to land crippled aircraft in 0 visibility. But put him in civilian clothes? In a seat someone else wanted? And suddenly he was just another black man who didn't belong. Have you ever been accused of a crime in a space you rightfully occupy, simply because someone decided you don't belong? What happened in those next 18 minutes was recorded, witnessed, documented by 47 phones and counting. And it would be analyzed by people with the power to end careers. Ground Supervisor Mike Stevens jogged down the jet bridge, slightly winded. His radio had made it sound urgent. Security threat. Possible fraud. Federal offense. He arrived ready to handle a problem. He had no idea he was the problem. Chief Flight Attendant Rosa Martinez emerged from the galley. 20 years with American Airlines showed in her supervisor stripes and her practiced crisis management face. Status report. Heather launched into her narrative before Elias could speak. Passenger in 2A refusing to relocate. Presented fraudulent documentation. Delayed departure by, she checked her watch. 11 minutes and counting. Rosa glanced at Elias's credentials. Cursory. The kind of look that seeks confirmation, not information. Heather leaned close, whispering something that made Rosa's expression harden. "Sir." Rosa returned the documents without examining them. "Disputes happen frequently. Policy is to minimize disruption. We have excellent seats in premium economy that would resolve this immediately. With respect, ma'am." Elias kept his voice level. "I purchased this seat. I have a confirmed reservation. I violated no regulations." As he spoke, he heard his father's voice from that summer night. "Officer, I'm a federal prosecutor. My credentials are valid. My son is in the back seat." The same calm, the same dignity, the same futile belief that reason would prevail against assumptions already calcified into certainty. Sloan's live stream hit 1,800 viewers. Comments flooded faster than she could read. "This is discrimination. Where's the manager? Someone call corporate." Mike Stevens stepped forward. Heather's radio call had primed him. Fraudulent passenger. Uncooperative. Security risk. "Evening, folks." Mike's tone suggested this wasn't negotiable. "Let's resolve this efficiently. Sir, I need you to deplane so we can sort this out through proper channels." "I'd be happy to sort it out here," Elias replied. "My documentation is in order. You can verify everything through your system in 30 seconds. Sir, crew has discretionary authority over seating arrangements. Federal aviation regulations support their decisions. You can file a complaint later, but right now, you need to comply. You can file a complaint later." The same words the police sergeant had said to his father. "You're free to go now, Mr. Thorne. If you have concerns, file a complaint with Internal Affairs." No apology, no acknowledgement, just permission to leave the scene of his own humiliation. His father had filed that complaint. It went nowhere. 12-year-old Elias had watched his father, a man who argued cases before federal judges, defeated by a system that protected its own. That was when Elias understood. The system wouldn't change from outside pressure. It had to change from within. The cabin split. Some passengers objected. "This is insane. Check his ticket properly." Others wanted it over. "Just move him so we can leave. I have a connection." Caldwell settled into a nearby seat, smirking. Some people just refused to accept reality. Sloane captured everything. Her film school training kicked in. Wide shots of the crowd. Close-ups of faces. The tension building like a thriller's second act. Security Officer Patricia Williams entered the aircraft. 10 years in law enforcement. The only black person on the response team. She'd watched Sloane's live stream during her walk to the gate. She understood the optics before stepping aboard. "Evening, everyone." Patricia's voice stayed neutral. Professional. But her eyes found Elias's and held for half a second. A look that communicated, "I see what's happening. I'm sorry, but I have a job to do." Elias recognized that look too. He'd seen it in his father's eyes when explaining that night to young Elias. "The officers were just doing their job, son. They didn't know who I was." But underneath the explanation, Elias had heard the truth. Sometimes the system forces good people to participate in bad outcomes. "Can someone explain the situation?" Rosa stepped forward. "Passenger refuses crew instructions. We need removal to maintain schedule." Patricia approached Elias directly. "Sir, may I see your documentation?" Elias handed everything over. Patricia examined it thoroughly. Actually read it. The boarding pass clearly showed seat 2A. The credentials appeared legitimate. The timestamps proved everything was procedural. "These documents appear valid," Patricia said slowly. However, Mike interjected. "Airline crew maintains discretionary authority. FAA regulations support crew decisions in these matters." Patricia nodded. She knew the legal framework. She also knew racial profiling when she saw it. But her badge required following procedures. Even when procedures enabled discrimination. The overhead speaker crackled. "Flight 447 departure in 8 minutes. Final boarding call." Rosa made the decision that would cost American Airlines millions. "Sir, we're prepared to have you removed and banned from future American Airlines travel if you don't comply immediately." Marcus, the young flight attendant, watched from the galley entrance. His hands gripped the counter. His jaw worked, but he stayed silent. What could he do? He was 2 years into this job. No power, no leverage. Just witness to something he'd experienced a dozen times himself. Elias understood Marcus's silence. It was the same silence that had surrounded his father's humiliation. Neighbors watching, but not intervening. Colleagues hearing about it, but not speaking up. A conspiracy of silence that allowed injustice to flourish because speaking cost more than watching. But Elias had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. Not for revenge, for accountability. Heather crossed her arms, satisfaction spreading across her face. "You should have moved when I asked nicely. Would have saved everyone this trouble." The comment hit Sloane's live stream like gasoline on fire. Viewer count, 4,000. Comments exploding, "Screenshot that." She admitted it. "This is evidence." Elias's phone vibrated in his pocket. He knew without looking it was Director Chun, Chief of Flight Operations. 3 weeks ago, she'd called him into her office. "We're getting reports," she'd said. "Discrimination complaints from minority passengers on domestic routes. Flight attendants questioning credentials. Passengers moved from first class. Security called for suspicious behavior that turns out to be people reading, sleeping, or existing while non-white." She'd outlined the pattern. It mirrored everything Elias had experienced growing up. Everything his father had endured. "I need someone to test the system," Director Chin had said. "Someone with unquestionable credentials who can document what happens when our crew doesn't know who they're dealing with." Elias had thought about his father. About that summer night. About the promise he'd made. "I'll do it." Caldwell spoke up from his seat, loud enough to perform for the cabin. "Finally, some people just need to learn their place. First class isn't for everyone." The words detonated across social media. 4,000 viewers became 8,000. "Learn your place" merged with hashtag flight discrimination and exploded across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Passengers gasped. The elderly woman in 3A looked horrified. Even some who'd wanted Elias removed looked uncomfortable now. But Caldwell didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying his victory. Elias felt something shift inside him. Not anger. Clarity. This was why he'd spent 15 years climbing from ROTC to captain to chief flight instructor. This was the moment his father's humiliation would be answered. Not with violence. Not with shouting. with authority earned through excellence. Heather reached for her radio again. Ground control, passenger is non-compliant. Requesting security escort for forcible removal. Patricia stepped closer to Elias. Her voice dropped. Sir, please, just cooperate. Fighting this here won't help anyone. Elias looked at her. Really looked. Saw the impossible position she'd been put in. Another black person forced to enforce a system that targeted both of them. Officer Williams, he said quietly. You're absolutely right. Fighting here won't help. His words carried strange weight, as if he knew something she didn't. Patricia frowned. Something about his tone didn't match a man about to be humiliated and removed. Mike keyed his radio. Ground control, passenger is complying. Prepare removal paperwork and flight ban documentation. The response crackled back. Copy. Flight 447 cleared for departure in 6 minutes once passenger is removed. Heather, Rosa, and Mike formed a semicircle around Elias. Their authority apparently vindicated. They'd successfully removed an uncooperative passenger and maintained their departure schedule. Sloan's phone showed 12,000 viewers. Major news outlets were picking up the story. American Airlines discrimination incident was trending. Elias stood slowly. Every movement deliberate, controlled. As he reached for his briefcase, he thought about his father one last time. Thought about that night in the kitchen when his mother had cried and his father had said, I did everything right. Everything. And it didn't matter. Young Elias had made a promise that night. He would make it matter. He would become what the system needed to change from within. Heather smirked. Smart choice. Should have made it 10 minutes ago. Caldwell raised his champagne glass. The flight attendant had already served him. Cheers to common sense. Patricia moved to escort Elias toward the exit. That's when Elias opened his briefcase. Not to gather belongings. To retrieve the symbol of everything he'd earned. Everything he'd become. Everything his father's humiliation had driven him to achieve. His captain's jacket. Midnight blue. 4 gold stripes on each sleeve. The fabric emerged from the briefcase like a flag being raised. A promise kept. It is heart-wrenching to witness such arrogance. If you believe that no one should ever be treated this way, please hit the like button and subscribe right now to join our mission. We are striving to reach our first 100 subscribers, and every single one of you is a vital part of this fight for dignity and justice. Heather's smirk froze. Rose's tablet slipped from her fingers. Mike Stevens stumbled backward. Caldwell's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. The cabin went silent. Not the silence of waiting. The silence of realization. Elias shrugged into the jacket with practiced precision. Each button fastened with the same care he used for pre-flight checklists. When he spoke, his voice carried new weight. Not louder, just weighted with 15 years of commanding aircraft worth $200 million across oceans. My name is Captain Elias Thorne. Each word fell like a gavel. Senior Captain for American Airlines. Chief Flight Instructor, North Atlantic Division. And in approximately 90 minutes, the commanding officer of this aircraft for its transatlantic crossing to London Heathrow. The revelation detonated. Heather's hand flew to her throat. Her face went white, then red, then white again. Rosa bent to retrieve her tablet with shaking hands. Mike's radio clattered to the deck. Caldwell set his champagne down slowly, his hand trembling. Sloan's live stream viewer count achieved escape velocity. 12,000 became 20,000, then 40,000. Comments too fast to read. Oh my god. He's the captain. Plot twist. This is insane. Elias produced his company credentials, not the Platinum Elite card. His flight crew ID. I was repositioning for duty. Elias's voice stayed calm. Command calm. The kind that doesn't need volume. Standard practice in commercial aviation. I chose civilian attire as is my right during non-duty transport. Patricia Williams stepped back, relief flooding her face. The impossible position she'd been in suddenly resolved. Marcus, the young flight attendant, started clapping. Slowly at first, then harder. The sound spread. The elderly couple in 3A joined. The business exec in 4C. Passengers throughout first class erupted in applause. Not polite appreciation. Fierce, tribal celebration of justice. Sloan captured it all. The standing ovation. The stunned faces. The moment quiet authority defeated loud prejudice. Elias let the applause die naturally before continuing. Ms. Harrington. He addressed the flight attendant directly. His tone carried the weight of command decisions made in crisis. You accused me of fraudulent documentation. You demanded I relocate to where people like me sit. You summoned security to remove me from an aircraft I will be commanding in. He checked his watch. 83 minutes. Heather's mouth opened. Closed. No sound came out. Mr. Stevens. Elias turned to the ground supervisor. You threatened to ban me from future American Airlines travel. I am American Airlines, at least in terms of who is trusted to safely transport passengers across the Atlantic in aircraft worth $200 million. Mike's face went gray. And Mr. Higgins. Elias addressed Caldwell with surgical precision. You stated that I need to learn my place, and that first class isn't for everyone. My place is in the left seat of the cockpit. I've earned that place through 15,000 hours of keeping passengers alive through emergencies you can't imagine. Where's your place exactly? Caldwell had gone pale. His expensive watch and silk tie, suddenly meaningless ornaments on a man revealed to be morally bankrupt. The applause started again. Louder this time. Elias raised a hand. Silence fell immediately. Command presence. Now. His voice cut through the quiet. We need to address immediate operational concerns. He turned to Rosa. Ms. Martinez, as chief flight attendant, you're responsible for crew conduct aboard this aircraft. Your subordinate accused a company captain of fraud and escalated to security without proper verification. What's your assessment? Rosa's professional composure had shattered. Captain Thorne, there's been a catastrophic error in judgment. I sincerely apologize. Your apology is noted, but apologies don't address systemic failures. Ms. Harrington demonstrated either inadequate training or willful prejudice. Which is it? Rosa understood she was being given an opportunity to salvage something. Captain, I believe both factors contributed, but the assumptions made were indefensible regardless of training. Agreed. Elias's tone stayed neutral. Factual. Ms. Harrington, you're removed from this flight immediately. Administrative suspension pending investigation by HR and legal. Your conduct violated multiple policies and federal anti-discrimination statutes. Heather found her voice, trembling now. Captain Thorne, please. I have a family. 12 years of service. You had 12 years to learn that passengers deserve respect regardless of appearance. Tonight you failed that fundamental requirement. Suspension effective immediately. Gather your belongings and deplane. The finality permitted no negotiation. Heather's face crumpled. 12 years of seniority evaporating in 12 seconds. She reached for her carry-on with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. But Elias felt no satisfaction in her tears, only the cold clarity of necessary consequences. His father had never received an apology, never received acknowledgement. The system had protected the officers who humiliated him. That pattern ended tonight. Mike Stevens fumbled with his radio. Captain, I relied on crew assessment. Standard procedures. Standard procedures require verification before escalation. You threatened to ban a senior captain based on accusations you failed to verify. You'll spend the next hour writing an incident report explaining how you threatened to ban your own flight crew. I expect it on my desk before wheels up. Mike nodded, understanding his career had sustained terminal damage. His hands shook as he retrieved his tablet. Elias turned to Caldwell, who'd been trying to become invisible in his seat. Mr. Higgins. The quiet in Elias's voice was more terrifying than shouting. You stated I should learn my place. You implied my presence was irregular or inappropriate. You validated discrimination against a fellow passenger. Caldwell opened his mouth. No words emerged. As captain of this aircraft, I'm responsible for safety. Federal regulations grant me authority to remove any passenger I deem a safety risk. Bigotry represents a safety risk. Passengers who create hostile environments represent safety risks. The implication crystallized in Caldwell's expression. You're removed from this flight. You'll deplane immediately. Your ticket will be refunded, but you're banned from this aircraft. Complaints may be directed to our legal department, who will be reviewing documentation of your conduct. You can't, Caldwell's voice cracked. Federal Aviation Regulation Part 121.580 grants the pilot in command absolute authority over passenger removal for safety concerns. Bigotry and hostile environments constitute legitimate safety concerns. You will deplane. Now, Patricia stepped forward, her earlier reluctance replaced by professional efficiency. Mr. Higgins, gather your belongings. Exit the aircraft immediately. Caldwell stood on trembling legs. His entitlement had evaporated, replaced by the dawning realization that his words, recorded by dozens of phones, would follow him far beyond this cabin. He retrieved his carry-on from the overhead bin, his movements jerky with panic. As he shuffled toward the exit, his expensive loafer caught on the carpet. He stumbled, caught himself, the physical manifestation of his complete humiliation. Passengers applauded again as he passed, this time with an edge. Not celebration of justice, celebration of accountability delivered. Sloan's live stream, 67,000 viewers. Major networks running clips. The story beyond containment. Elias addressed the cabin. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption. American Airlines is committed to treating every passenger with dignity. Tonight's incident represents a failure of that commitment. It will be addressed comprehensively. He turned to Marcus. Mr. Davis, you attempted intervention earlier, but were dismissed. Your instinct to verify documentation and question discriminatory conduct demonstrates exactly the crew behavior we need. Consider yourself commended. I'm recommending you for our diversity leadership program. Marcus's face transformed from shock to gratitude. His eyes glistened. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, sir. Elias nodded. Then to Rosa. You have 30 minutes to locate replacement crew for Ms. Harrington's position. We have a transatlantic crossing to execute on schedule. Can you accomplish this? Rosa had recovered some composure. Yes, Captain. I'll coordinate with crew scheduling immediately. Excellent. When you file your incident report, be comprehensive. Legal will need detailed documentation for proceedings that will inevitably follow. He allowed that to sink in. I'll be reviewing all reports personally. This reflects systemic issues requiring systemic solutions. Training will be enhanced. Policies revised. Accountability enforced. The cabin stayed silent. Passengers processing the complete reversal they'd witnessed. Elias glanced at Sloan. Ms. Masters, I believe, your documentation will prove invaluable for our internal review and subsequent proceedings. Please share that footage with corporate communications. Sloan nodded, stunned to be addressed directly. Of course, Captain. It's already being downloaded by news organizations. Good. Sunlight remains the best disinfectant for institutional prejudice. He checked his watch. 58 minutes until duty commencement. Ms. Martinez, prepare the cabin for departure. We have passengers expecting to reach London, and I won't let this incident compromise their schedule. Captain Elias Thorne settled into seat 2A, his assigned seat, his rightful seat, the seat he'd earned through 15 years of excellence. He opened his briefcase to review the flight plan. The 4 gold stripes on his shoulders caught the cabin light, symbols of authority that had been present all along, hidden only by fabric and the willful blindness of prejudice. In his mind, Elias heard his father's voice from that summer night 23 years ago, not the defeated voice from the kitchen, the strong voice from their conversation years later, after Elias had earned his captain's wings. You did it, son. You became what the system needed. No, Dad. I became what you taught me to be. The cabin fell into a deathly silence. But before we reveal the full consequences that Elias Thorne was about to unleash on those who had so grievously misjudged him, I have a small request. We are just a few subscribers away from our milestone of 100. If you enjoy stories where the underdog wins and justice is served, please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. The news cycle moved with predatory speed. By the time Elias landed Flight 447 at Heathrow, on time, flawlessly executed despite the 40-minute delay, Captain's Reckoning was trending worldwide. Sloan Masters footage had been licensed to CNN, BBC, MSNBC, Fox News. The story dominated every platform. Cable news, morning shows, international broadcasts. American Airlines stock price trembled in after-hours trading, down 4% in the first hour, then 6%, then 9%. Investors were processing the PR catastrophe in real time. But the financial damage was nothing compared to what was coming for the individuals involved. Heather sat in her apartment, phone buzzing nonstop. Text messages, calls, emails, social media notifications flooding her screen faster than she could read them. Her face was everywhere. Screenshots from Sloan's video. Her smirk when she'd said, "Should have moved when I asked nicely." Her satisfied expression when security arrived. Twitter had identified her within 90 minutes. Full name, employment history, photos from her Facebook profile. The hashtag Heather Harrington was trending. Not with support, with condemnation. Her union rep called. "Heather, I need you to come in tomorrow morning. Don't talk to anyone. Don't post anything on social media. This is bad." "How bad?" Silence on the line. Then, American Airlines is launching a full investigation. They're reviewing every complaint filed against you for the past decade. And Heather, there are a lot of complaints. Heather's stomach dropped. She'd always dismissed complaints. Sensitive passengers. People looking for a lawsuit. Professional victims. Management had always backed her. 12 years of seniority. Stellar performance reviews. But now those complaints were being examined under a microscope. 27 documented incidents in 5 years. All involving minority passengers. All dismissed as judgment calls. Her phone buzzed again. This time, her supervisor. "Heather, you're suspended effective immediately. Pending investigation. Don't come to the airport. Don't contact any crew members. HR will be in touch within 48 hours. The call ended. Heather stared at her phone. 12 years. Gone in 12 hours. Her husband came home from work. He'd seen the videos. His colleagues had sent them. His face was tight with anger, but not at American Airlines. "Heather, what the hell were you thinking? I was just doing my job. Your job is to humiliate passengers? To call security on a captain? I didn't know he was a captain. You didn't bother to check. You saw a black man in first class and assumed he didn't belong." The argument escalated. Words that couldn't be taken back. Accusations about who she really was versus who he thought he married. By morning, her husband had called a lawyer. Not to defend Heather. To file for divorce. Director Chun, chief of flight operations, sat across from Heather in the HR conference room. An attorney from legal sat beside Chin. Heather's union rep sat beside her. Chun slid a folder across the table. "Ms. Harrington, we've completed our preliminary investigation. The findings are damning." The folder contained everything. 27 complaints. 15 involved passengers being questioned about first-class credentials. 12 involved security being called. 9 involved passengers being moved or removed. Every single incident involved a person of color. Not one involved a white passenger. "This represents a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior," the legal attorney said. "Violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Violation of company anti-discrimination policies. Creation of hostile environment. And in the case of Captain Thorne, insubordination toward a superior officer." Heather's union rep tried to intervene. "My client has 12 years of service. Her performance reviews have been excellent. This incident was an isolated error in judgment." It wasn't isolated. Chen's voice cut like ice. It was systematic. The only reason it wasn't addressed earlier is because management failed in its oversight responsibility. That failure ends today. Chen opened a second folder. Additionally, Captain Thorne's incident was part of a federally sanctioned civil rights compliance audit. The FAA and Department of Transportation have been notified. Your actions are now part of the federal record. Heather felt the room spinning. "Ms. Harrington, your employment with American Airlines is terminated effective immediately. For cause, violation of civil rights statutes and company policy. You'll receive your final paycheck. Your benefits end in 30 days. Security will escort you from the building." "You can't do this." "We absolutely can. And we are." Chin stood. "This meeting is concluded." Heather's union rep tried to negotiate. Tried to argue wrongful termination. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video documentation irrefutable. The pattern undeniable. Within the week, the union withdrew its support. Heather was blacklisted from aviation. Every major airline checked references. American Airlines HR was legally obligated to disclose the reason for termination. Terminated for cause. Civil rights violations. Pattern of discriminatory behavior. No airline would touch her. She applied to regional carriers. Budget airlines. Corporate aviation. Same result. Her name triggered immediate rejection. 6 months later, she was working in telemarketing. 43 years old. Making $28,000 a year. Her marriage over. Her savings depleted by legal fees from the divorce. Her reputation destroyed beyond repair. Sometimes she thought about writing an apology to Captain Thorne. She never did. Because deep down, she still didn't understand what she'd done wrong. Still believed she'd been just doing her job. still saw herself as the victim of political correctness rather than the perpetrator of systematic discrimination. And that's why she would never work in aviation again. Caldwell's phone started ringing before he'd even left the airport. His managing partner at the consulting firm. "Caldwell, what the hell is this video I'm seeing? It's a misunderstanding. I didn't know the guy was a pilot. You told him to learn his place? You said first class isn't for everyone. On camera? With 40 million people watching." I was frustrated. The flight was delayed. "Caldwell, we have a zero-tolerance diversity policy. It's in your employment contract. You signed it 3 years ago." Silence. "Don't come to the office Monday. We're conducting an internal review. You're suspended pending investigation." The call ended. Caldwell's name was everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. His comments had been clipped, shared, memed. His face became the symbol of privileged entitlement. Within 72 hours, his firm terminated his contract. His clients, Fortune 500 companies with diversity initiatives, dropped him immediately. Nobody wanted association with the Learn Your Place guy. His wife saw the videos, heard his comments, saw him raise a champagne glass while a black man was being removed from his seat. "I didn't know I married a bigot," she told him as she packed her bags. "Or maybe I did, and I chose not to see it. Either way, I'm done." She filed for divorce. Took the kids. The custody agreement gave her primary residence because Caldwell's demonstrated prejudice created concerns about appropriate value transmission to their children. His country club revoked his membership. The board cited conduct unbecoming and reputational risk to the institution. His golf buddies stopped returning calls. His business contacts went silent. Within 6 months, Caldwell had moved to a different state, changed his resume to hide the gap in employment, started working in insurance sales under a different professional name. He made $67,000 his first year, less than a quarter of his previous salary. His children, teenagers now, changed their last name legally. They didn't want to be associated with that guy from the airplane. Caldwell sometimes watched the video late at night, watched himself perform entitlement for an audience of millions, watched himself become the cautionary tale. But like Heather, he never quite grasped the full weight of his actions. He told himself it was cancel culture, mob justice, political correctness run amok. Never acknowledged that consequences aren't persecution, they're accountability. Mike Stevens kept his job. Barely. His suspension lasted 60 days. Without pay. 60 days to think about how he'd threatened to ban a senior captain from airline travel based on assumptions he'd failed to verify. When he returned, he was reassigned. No more passenger-facing duties. No more supervisory authority. No more ground operations management. He worked in cargo logistics coordination, tracking shipments, managing freight manifests. No interaction with passengers. No decision-making authority. His colleagues knew what had happened. The story had spread through every airport American Airlines operated. Stevens is the guy who tried to ban a captain. He became a cautionary tale in training sessions. His incident, alongside Heather's, became mandatory case study material for all ground operations personnel. Every new hire watched the video, watched Mike threaten Captain Thorne, watched the revelation, watched the consequences. Mike's career had plateaued. No promotions, no advancement, no trust. He would work cargo logistics until retirement. 20 more years of reduced responsibility and permanent institutional memory of his failure. Sometimes he saw Captain Thorne in the terminals, walking to gates, reviewing flight plans, commanding aircraft. Mike always looked away. Officer Patricia Williams was promoted to Director of Airport Security Training. Her handling of an impossible situation, recognizing discrimination but constrained by duty, became teaching material for the right reasons. She'd examined the documents thoroughly. She'd questioned the narrative. She'd maintained professionalism while clearly uncomfortable with what was happening. Her promotion came with a directive: develop new protocols, train security personnel to recognize racial profiling, create systems that balance authority with dignity. Patricia created training modules using the Flight 447 incident. But she didn't focus on what went wrong. She focused on decision points. Here's where Heather made her first assumption. What should she have done instead? Here's where Mike escalated without verification. What questions should he have asked? Here's where I examined the documents. What was I looking for? Her programs reduced discriminatory security calls by 47% within 6 months across airports she oversaw. She met with Captain Thorne quarterly, reviewed cases, discussed patterns, built institutional knowledge. "You showed me something," she told him during one meeting. "Power without wisdom is just force. Real authority comes from knowing when to question the system you're part of." Marcus became the youngest diversity training coordinator in American Airlines history. His insider perspective proved invaluable. He'd experienced discrimination as a black flight attendant. He'd witnessed it from both sides of the power dynamic. He knew which policies worked and which provided cover for bias. Within 6 months, discrimination complaints on routes he oversaw dropped 47%. He developed training scenarios based on real incidents, not hypothetical situations. Actual cases where crew members had made assumptions based on race. Flight 447 was his primary case study. "Watch this interaction," he'd tell trainees. Notice how Heather never actually examined the documents. She decided Captain Thorne didn't belong before looking at evidence. That's bias. That's what we're eliminating. Marcus worked directly with Captain Thorne. They became colleagues, friends, 2 black men working within the system to change it from the inside. "You gave me a path," Marcus told Elias over coffee one morning. "Showed me that speaking up matters even when you think you're powerless." "You weren't powerless," Elias replied. "You were outnumbered." Different thing. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about making sure it never happens again. By subscribing to Soul Vault Stories, you are helping us preserve these accounts of power and resilience. Join our community now. Captain Elias Thorne stood at the podium of the International Aviation Diversity Summit. Industry leaders from 40 countries filled the convention center. His 4 stripes caught the stage lights. "Dignity isn't negotiable," he told the audience. "When we demanded accountability, we created lasting change that protects every traveler who follows." The statistics told the story. Discrimination complaints across participating airlines, down 47% industry-wide. Minority business travel on carriers implementing bias training, up 31%. Employee satisfaction scores among minority crew members, up 53%. The economic impact of inclusion had become undeniable. American Airlines had implemented comprehensive reforms. The board approved them within 72 hours of the Flight 447 incident. They called it the Elias Protocol, named by employee vote. The American Airlines board had approved it unanimously. The alternative, regulatory shutdown, investor flight, brand destruction, would cost billions. Within 18 months, Delta, United, and Southwest had adopted similar protocols. The Elias Protocol became industry standard. Investment firms began evaluating airlines on discrimination metrics. ESG frameworks driving social progress through economic pressure. Director Chin stood before a congressional subcommittee investigating discrimination in commercial aviation. Sloan Masters footage played on screens throughout the hearing room. Every humiliating second preserved for the permanent record. The Thorne incident exposed systematic failures in our organization, Chin testified. Not because we lacked policies, but because we lacked enforcement. We had procedures prohibiting discrimination. We simply didn't follow them. She outlined the reforms. The congressional members took notes. Several asked for American Airlines implementation guide to share with other industries. Captain Thorne's courage didn't just change our airline, Chin concluded. It changed our industry, and it demonstrated that accountability, real accountability, is possible when institutions choose to face their failures rather than excuse them. The $75 million fund had awarded scholarships to 283 students in its first year. 43 were now enrolled in pilot training programs at historically black colleges and universities. 12 had earned their commercial licenses. 3 were first officers. 1, Aisha Johnson from Detroit, would become American Airlines' youngest black female captain in 18 months. At the scholarship ceremony, Aisha approached Elias. "Captain Thorne, I need to thank you. I grew up being told people like me don't fly planes. We fly in them. You showed me that's a lie." Elias smiled. "You showed yourself. I just removed an obstacle." "You removed a lot of obstacles, sir." Sloan's documentary, 35,000 Feet to Justice, premiered at Sundance Film Festival. Audience Award for Best Documentary Feature. Distribution deal with a major streaming platform. Global release in 47 countries. Her film expanded beyond Flight 447. She interviewed other passengers who'd experienced discrimination. flight attendants who'd witnessed it but stayed silent, executives who'd ignored complaints. The documentary became required viewing at business schools. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton all analyzed how citizen journalism and social media accountability could drive institutional change faster than litigation. One phone recording changed everything, Sloan said during press interviews. It proves ordinary people, armed only with smartphones and moral clarity, can hold extraordinary power accountable when they document truth. She'd started a foundation, teaching young filmmakers how to document injustice, providing legal support for citizens facing retaliation for recording discrimination. Her work expanded beyond aviation. Retail discrimination, housing discrimination, healthcare disparities, all documented, all exposed, all driving change. Captain Elias Thorne had accepted the position of Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for American Airlines, the first-line pilot ever elevated to executive leadership. But he refused to give up flying completely. Reduced schedule, 2 transatlantic crossings per month, but he wouldn't abandon the left seat. "I need to stay connected to what we're trying to change," he told the board. "Can't reform from an office if I've forgotten what it's like in the cabin." Every Tuesday, Elias returned to his old neighborhood, not to the house he'd grown up in, to the community center 3 blocks from where his father's car had been stopped that summer night. There, he taught young black men and women about civil rights, about documenting interactions, about surviving while building something better. "Power isn't having a badge," he told them. "Power is knowing when to use it. Greater power is knowing when to keep it holstered and let your actions speak." He showed them the video, not for glory, for education. Watch how Heather makes assumptions before examining evidence. Watch how Caldwell performs entitlement. Watch how Mike escalates without verification. These are patterns. Learn to recognize them. Learn to counter them. The students asked questions. "How did you stay so calm? Weren't you scared? What if they'd physically removed you?" Elias answered honestly. "I was terrified. Every second. But I remembered my father. Remembered his dignity under humiliation. That's what I drew from." 1 year and 3 months after Flight 447, Elias received a letter. Handwritten. Postmarked from Lincoln, Nebraska. He opened it carefully. "Dear Captain Thorne, you don't know me. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 14 years old. I'm black. Last month, a store security guard accused me of stealing. I didn't steal anything. I was just shopping for my mom's birthday present. The guard followed me through the store, demanded to search my bag, called me a thief in front of everyone. I remembered your video. I stayed calm. I asked for the manager. I asked them to check the security cameras. I recorded everything on my phone. They found the actual shoplifter, a white woman, 10 minutes later. The guard had to apologize in front of all the customers who'd watched him accuse me. My mom says you taught me how to protect myself. My dad says you taught me that staying calm is more powerful than getting angry. I'm telling everyone at school about you, about how you didn't yell or fight. You just showed them who you really were. Thank you for showing me that dignity wins. That patience wins. That documenting truth wins. Your friend, Sarah Mitchell." Elias read Sarah Mitchell's letter 3 times. He folded it carefully and placed it in his desk drawer, next to his captain's wings and a photo of his father from that summer night 23 years ago, Marcus Thorne standing beside his Volvo, head high, dignity intact despite the humiliation. Elias picked up his phone and called Sarah's mother. "Mrs. Mitchell? This is Captain Elias Thorne. I received Sarah's letter, and I'd like to help her fly." Later that evening, Elias sat across from his father at the same kitchen table where he'd once listened to his mother cry. Marcus Thorne, now 71, looked at his son with tears in his eyes. "I watched the video, son," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "I watched you put on that jacket and take your power back. Not with anger, but with the authority you earned. You finished what I couldn't start." They hugged, a hug that carried decades of pain, now replaced by the cold clarity of victory. Elias had shown the world that while revenge destroys, justice transforms. He didn't just break a few careers, he forced a broken system to look in the mirror. This is the mission of Soul Vault Stories. We believe that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about making sure these stories of resilience are never forgotten. We are just a few subscribers away from our milestone of 100. If you believe that dignity isn't negotiable and that quiet power speaks loudest, please hit the subscribe button right now. Your support is the fuel that allows us to keep bringing these accounts of accountability to light. Captain Elias Thorne kept his 4 gold stripes, but his greatest achievement wasn't commanding a $200 million aircraft. It was proving that the cost of cruelty is always greater than the price of empathy. Don't let the next story go untold. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of justice. Soul Vault Stories. Because some stories are too powerful to be left in the dark.